This episode, Unlocking the Housing Market, dealing with the rate lock trap. Well, we get a lot of questions from people asking about I'm in my mortgage right now. I've got a great rate. I'm trying to not get out of my great rate and buy a new home. What do I do? Well, questions are always good for us. So a show was born. Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition is entitled Unlocking the Housing Market, Dealing with the Rate Lock-In Trap. And to help me explain, it's my ever cheerful co-host and rate lock guy trapped into his
I'm
house.
trapped in, all right.
Johnny's actually one of the people that's actually locked in, so this actually ends up being a good thing. But Mr. Johnny, what's been going on? Anything exciting?
Yeah, we have been silent the last, I think, week or so. So, folks, we apologize for that, but Johnny had some car issues that I'm a week behind just because of that, and all kinds of other things. So I think you were traveling too, weren't you?
I've been doing a little bit of traveling. Yes, a little bit.
So. Yeah, Larry, the leisure.
Yeah.
So folks, we're going to talk about this lock-in thing. So let's get into it.
Yeah. So this is just, we're going to do kind of this 1,000-foot broad overview on this one. So there's, right now there's a lot of people out there that own their homes. John, you're probably one of them.
Yeah, I am.
Where you have your house in on a really good interest rate, somewhere in the COVID days when the rates were down in the threes and stuff like that. And people are very hesitant to want to get out of those rates because your mortgage balances could double. It's possible your actual payments could double. Yeah, easily. And so it really is a time of, and what the ripple effect that happens here is it makes the housing market really tight. People aren't putting their houses up for sale. They're not selling them as often and as much as they are. And so inventories are technically low. It's also making it harder to sell newer homes and things like that, because of course the cost goes up on a monthly basis for you is what it is. So we wanted to just address some of these issues and have a conversation about them just to see if there's some things that y'all can do. And John, do you fall into that? Are you in that market? I mean, you guys have a house.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit of history, right? That,
sure.
Back in the day, rates there was a lot of variability back in the early 80s. Okay. There's no doubt about that. And then you had the same thing happen back then, but then it kind of settled out. And then before then, people would downsize. You got older, you bought maybe a smaller house and you moved or whatever. And that was now people you're stuck, you're locked in.
Yeah.
And that's why I call it locked in, because where am I going?
Right. And again, so let me fill in a little bit on John's situation for our listeners that don't know. But John's got a house that you raised your daughter there, right?
Yep.
And so it's a pretty good sized house. I will personally think it's a pretty big house for just two people. Do you agree with that?
No, it's perfect for us than the rest of the homes. And I got one of the smaller homes in the neighborhood, but the rest of these homes in here, I would definitely agree with that. And a lot of people, you bring up a good point. A lot of people in this neighborhood would like to make a change, but they can't.
Well, they could, but they can't do it.
Well, you can't.
Right.
But you're not going to financially. You're not going to do it because you're kind of slit your own throat on that one. I mean, it's a tough thing. And the other side of it is that homes being as expensive as they are now, remember how much all this has gone up.
Right.
So that's the other component that I see. I'm not, professional realtor. I know what the market is though. And so now it's, if I go and I downsize, and I was looking years ago, maybe a year. It was obvious to me that, am I going to get half the product for more money than I'm paying now?
Right. And
Bi-
that's the great conundrum, right?
Right.
The other side to it, in my this is my opinion, and this is based on our local real estate situation, meaning in the greater Atlanta area. It's really hard to downsize also because there really aren't that many small houses. There's
That's
no
it.
small houses
That's right.
being built.
That's right.
That's just not happening,
Yeah,
you know?
that's exactly right. That's
And
exactly right.
so yeah, and so it's really hard. It's really that whole, kind of this model's been turned on its head of, I'm gonna get older and I'm gonna downsize. Well, where? Where are you gonna
So
go and downsize?
so
Where?
yeah, so the history
Dollar for dollar, I should say.
correct. And, again, the history kind of says, hey, you know, you say you stay in your home, you bought it for X and then you sell it for Y, and and then you got a nice big delta between that you can stick it in the bank or do whatever you need to do, and then take a chunk of that and buy a smaller house. And then you're set, no payments, no nothing. You got a nice little nest egg there for, what you did. It's very tough anymore, at least for me when I was looking at what was going on, because it's no matter where I move, the house, a small house is the same price as this
It's the
house.
same, yeah,
I
it's
was like,
exactly the same price,
what
right?
am I doing here?
Because of inflation. This is all
Exactly.
based on inflation. This is really exactly what happened back in the 70s and into the early 80s. It's exactly the same thing. In 1975, you could buy an average size home for probably what, 35 grand, something like that. And by 1985, they were $150,000, at that time for the same home. And you're like, whoa, what the hell happened? And then plus interest rates went up and all that kind of stuff. So your payments but this is a cycle that happens every so often, where you get this hyperinflationary
Yeah,
period
it worked.
and everything has gotten more expensive. And today, just building these homes, they're building larger homes because when I say they, I'm referring to home builders are building larger homes for two reasons. One is the market the market demands it. And they also, because the home is larger, they can make more money per unit. And so the days of the 1,000-foot home are gone because they just cannot make enough money per square foot to be worth the time to actually build it. And it's really it's sort of a sad statement in so many ways. That's why so many condos are being built, because you can build that, quote, say 1,000-foot home or 1,000 to 2,000 square foot in today's world. You can build that under multiple roof in a condo. Now you can start to make some money because you're building five times,
Yeah.
whatever the number
Yeah.
is.
And then have you seen the price of condos?
Oh my God. I mean,
Exactly. So it's the
you
same.
know,
So now it's like, wait a minute. No, I'm not going to move into a condo for the same price as that I'm selling my house for,
yeah, exactly.
because,
Right.
I get some of the, but no, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. So we're all kind of, frozen. And that means that the inventory on these homes, there's no real inventory anymore. Everybody's,
Right.
and now I see that the average age of a first time homeowner is 40 years old.
41, yeah,
Holy
41 years old.
smokes! I mean, come on, that's
Well,
great.
so the other thing that's happened in this hyperinflationary period, and this is just the same old story, right, is wages have not caught up yet. And so, right now there's a huge affordability crisis for homes for younger people in particular, because their wages have not caught up to the cost of the homes. It will equalize eventually. Just give it some time. It's going to take a number of years, but that's the same thing again, that we're old enough that we lived through that early. We were in a I was personally in a home buying cycle in the early 80s, and I remember those days, and I look at it as exactly the same as what I see today. It's exactly the same thing. And what happened is by the late 80s, your incomes had risen to meet the cost of buying a new home. There was a number of years there where it was rough. I don't know if it was that
Oh
way for
yeah,
you, John, but it was that way for me. And yeah, it was rough, and now, of course, wages have increased and, blah, 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 just to be, everything works kind of on parity, we'll call it. And it just takes time, it
yeah.
just
We're
takes
all kind
time.
of in that. We're all kind of stagnated right now, which is too bad. And I don't know when things are. I'm not the expert on this, but this is just observations
Right.
for the audience. And I'm sure you guys, and I'd like to, why don't you guys send us some emails about this if you're listening to this? Um, what your thoughts are, what your housing market is like,
Yeah.
Um,
It's very different in
it's
different
very
places
different
too.
in different areas. And
Yeah.
so, I can only speak for here. I know that there's, some states that are, a lot different than others, but so I guess now that you're all locked in, and
Yeah. What do you do?
if you're like me and you're okay, so I'm here, you know, what Larry, what can these people do that are kind of at this point, I mean, so they're here, enjoy your house. I mean, right? If this could turn a lot of people into, I'm not going anywhere for a while or ever. This could be my forever home. So
Right.
let's, we're going to have some more discussions on if that is the case. But there are a few things, I guess, at this point that you can do, right, to make it your forever home.
Well, and this will end up being a topic for a whole nother show, but yes, you can do some remodeling and what's it like to do a remodel in 2026 and things like that. And
So
I think we actually will do a secondary
yeah.
show on that. One of the other potential things to do, and we've been exploring this. So we have we basically downsized in 2013 because our kids were gone. And so we've got a relatively small house now. We happen to think it's really nice, and we've spent a
Mhm.
lot of time and money renovating it from 2013 out, and we're not going to go anywhere because we'll never be able to replace this particular home for two reasons. One is cost. Two is there isn't our house happens to be on a lake, and there are no houses of this size or smaller on this lake, period. We are at the bottom of the end of the size of homes on this lake, and we just don't want, I personally, and my wife too, we just don't really want a big home because big homes equate to big maintenance and big expense, and
Yeah.
I mean, we, Johnny, as I always say, I've been doing maintenance and home repair for most of my life. And
Hmm.
honestly, I'm tired of it,
Right,
so,
right, right. And
so
then there's, it's it's one thing that to have a place to get your arms around,
exactly. Well, yeah. And I can get my arms around this
and
place. I mean,
that's
for example, we did the roof last year. It was $7,500.
yeah.
Brandy new, with 35-year shingles, with architectural shingles, it was $7,500. I mean, your house is significantly bigger. Have you had your roof done?
Last yeah,
How much?
last year it
How much?
was close to 40.
Yeah, right. And that's
So
just a function of square footage, period,
yeah, yeah. Square
and
footage, complexity, and all the rest. But
yes,
yes,
yes.
but yes. So yeah, folks, we're kind of in this weird conundrum. I just would, for me, I've got my daughter's married. I got the grandbaby and all that kind of stuff. But I wish it was different. So, everybody could go out and buy a house.
Yeah, right.
When we were in our 20s, we were buying homes.
Yeah, we were. Yeah,
You know, and
several.
and then there you go. That's how you start to climb. You start to build assets. Okay,
Yes,
and that's
it's
the
building an
problem
asset.
right now is that the younger crowd, and I'm sure that you guys are listening to us, because we do get some statistics on that.
Yes, we do.
That you're kind of out there like, let's go, we're ready to move, let's go. I want to start building my asset base. I feel for you, man. I feel for you. Kind of hang in there. Let's see what the next year here brings. But
Well, hang in there because we lived this
yeah,
when we
that's
were
true.
young.
Yeah, good
This
point.
cycle is really similar to
Yeah,
when we came up, if you want to call it
yeah,
that. So you just got to hang in there. For the older people, and this is something that we've explored. So, because we're in our efforts to downsize, one of our things is that we like to travel. So we bought a travel trailer. And I'm telling you what, Johnny, like she talks about, oh, I want to get a house on, I want to get a small house out on a big piece of property. I'm like, we're just dragging the trailer out and going to go sit on that piece of property and, live, live in the camper. And then if we don't like it, we hook it back up and go, And I got to tell you what, for me, that's a great option, is just the ability to go. And for all of you young people that are thinking about maybe a tiny home, I would tell you, you better run your cost analysis versus a pre-made camper, because I already know the answer. Buy the camper, don't buy a tiny home. Do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
The engineering and things are so much better, and it's already been worked out, and it's professionally done. And trust me, I've looked at building tiny homes, and it's not inexpensive. It's
yeah.
really not.
But,
You're not
I hope that everybody out there, like I said, send us an email. I'd just love to hear what your situation is, and where your head's at on this. Because I'm sure that, if you're in this situation, or, let me define that situation I'm talking about, is the one that's, you're trying to find a home. I'd love to know where your head's at on this, and where you're at in the decision process, and the steps you're looking at to take to resolve that, to get a house.
Yeah.
Because it's not an easy one, and I don't know what kind of plans that that might be coming up for first time home buyers, and all those kind of things to get you started. So
Yep.
I'm an old guy, and I haven't done this in a long time now. So once again, I'd really like to hear it. I just I'm just talking or speaking from a perspective of what I know my younger neighbors are going through. So,
well, and your daughter as well.
yeah, no, absolutely. So that's kind of what, brings this topic, up, when I was talking to you, Larry, earlier about it, cause I've had a lot of conversations with my young neighbors about it. And, yeah, oof, it's a chunk of change these days. So
It's a chunk of change.
it wasn't going to be me back then, I'll tell you. So,
well, but again, their incomes are, blah, blah. Anyway.
yeah.
All right.
So,
All right. With
anyways.
that, Johnny, do you think they have these problems when they finance a spaceship? I'm just wondering.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I'm sure those guys get a spaceship line of equity.
One would think, right? And it all depends on how many samples they bring. Never
Yeah,
mind.
right.
We're not even going to go there.
We'll
All right, folks.
credit on that bad boy. All
yeah,
right.
yeah. So please like and subscribe to this show if if you're so inclined. Send us an email, questions@handymanprosradioshow.com, and we will respond. We always do. So with that, Johnny, take us home.
All right, folks. Listen, stay safe, and we'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.